As we're here on the ground in Punjab reporting on Operation Amrit Pal, the issue has become a diplomatic storm with India's High Commission in the United Kingdom and Consulate in the United States of America under attack. I'm Barkha Dutt, you're with the Mojo Story. These images that we've all seen by now, where Khalistani sympathizers vandalized the Indian tricolour at the High Commission in London, have led to India expressing outrage. UK's top diplomat was summoned. India has demanded at the highest level. The Foreign Secretary himself said that those outside the High Commission doing this must be arrested and prosecuted. Of course, India made her own symbolic answer, putting up an even bigger giant tricolour at the High Commission in the United Kingdom. But India is saying this is not enough. This is symbolism. We want concrete action. Meanwhile, the images today were quite different. There were joyous scenes of solidarity and the tricolour everywhere, outside the same High Commission that had come under attack from Khalistani sympathizers. But as we have already been saying, India wants formal action. And as one police officer quipped to me here in Punjab, he said there are more Khalistanis in London than there are in Ludhiana. Let's go across now live to somebody who has always been a friend of India. I welcome to the broadcast Bob Blackman. He's a member of parliament in the United Kingdom, always spoken out in support of India and taken very, very strong positions on the issues that matter most to India. Mr. Blackman, thank you for your time. This is being described in India as an attack on India, not merely a bunch of Khalistani thugs looking to take out a protest, but the High Commission, as you know, is Indian territory, and the flag is a symbol of the Indian state. Do you see this as an attack on India itself? What happened in London?
I do indeed, and a very warm welcome to your viewers, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speaking. The clear position here is that this was a coordinated attack, as you quite rightly say. I'm afraid these Khalistanis have attacked not only in the United States, but in Canada and Australia as well. And there may be other attacks taking place on India and on Indian territory. And that's what we all have to remember. My sympathy is clearly with the two security guards who were injured during this disgraceful attack. And indeed, of course, I've expressed and seen the Indian High Commissioner last night and expressed my sorrow that this has happened in London and on our watch. Clearly, there's a number of issues that have to be dealt with. The first is, of course, that one of those individuals involved was arrested and released on police bail, while the police are investigating CCTV images of the riots that took place and the coordinated attack. Clearly, there's criminal damage being committed with broken windows. You've seen as well as you showed, the Tricolour being hauled down, and presumably then I'm not quite sure what happened to it afterwards, but clearly it was desecrated. And that is not uncommon. This has happened before in London from these Khalistanis. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi visited last time during a Commonwealth meeting, we had demonstrations in Parliament Square, and then these people hauled down the Indian flag and trampled on it and then set light to it. I mean, these are people that have no respect for the flag whatsoever. So the fact is that what we've got to look at first off is what we need to do to make sure that the High Commission does not suffer similar attacks again. There have been at least half a dozen attacks, not necessarily by Khalistanis, but by other groups on the High Commission in London, and it is just absolutely unacceptable. There is a question as well that given these are coordinated attacks, as we've said, across the world, particularly amongst our allies, that it does mean that the security forces either knew something and failed to inform the police, or they didn't know what was going on with these coordinated activities. Either way, we need to get to the bottom of what happened here and why there was no police presence when these Khalistanis arrived. When this incident occurred, with the smashing of windows and the hauling down of the flag. The police were alerted. They arrived, and by the time they arrived, most of these people had dispersed, and there were very few people to deal with. And that's regrettable, because the reality is that there should have been a police presence there, even on Sunday, to make sure that the High Commission was safeguarded. I mean, you can imagine from your viewers' perspective, if the British High Commission had been attacked in Delhi, what the reaction from the British government would have been. We would have been saying exactly what the Indian government is saying, and exactly what the High Commissioner in London is saying. It's a disgraceful attack. It shouldn't happen, and we've got to make sure in the UK that it doesn't happen again. Now, in London, we have the position whereby the individual in charge of the police force is Sadiq Khan, the Mayor of London. He's got questions to answer, because clearly he should have made sure that the police were directed to be there to safeguard the Commission, and indeed all embassies of all countries across the world. We must not have these sort of activities happening ever again.
Let me ask you to elaborate on what you mean by coordinated attacks. There's a suspicion here in Punjab, where I'm reporting this story, that the man himself, the separatist, and the Khalistanis in general have been long backed by the ISI, by Pakistan. How do you react to that, and what do you mean by coordinated attacks, Mr. Blackman?
Well, it's very, very easy these days through the use of various different social media, through WhatsApp and through other electronic means, for individuals who have a particular cause to coordinate their activities across the world. Clearly, the fact that these activities and these disgraceful attacks seem to have occurred over the weekend, that appears to me like a coordinated series of activities. Now, the individuals involved, we clearly have to identify, isolate, and arrest. And now I understand that in India, this organisation is indeed a banned organisation, and therefore we, as friends of India, need to now review the position on these organisations. And where there's more than one organisation, then let's look at the multiplicity of these organisations to see if they are a threat to our security. They're clearly banned in India, and therefore our friends around the world should all be looking to say, well, if India has banned them, so should we. Which would make it then illegal to belong to one of these organisations. The sort of demonstrations that you saw would be illegal. Waving those flags, Khalistani flags, would be illegal. And anyone doing so would be liable to arrest. Now, I think that is something that the British government now needs to take on board. Our Home Office needs to look at this in detail. And indeed, our people right across the board should be saying, this is unacceptable. We are not going to accept it. And equally, making sure that people do take on board the fact of these demonstrations must not be allowed to turn into what we're seeing, which is violent protests, criminal damage being committed, and indeed possible terrorism being committed across, and a threat to the security of our countries.
You made a really significant point there, Mr. Blackman. You've actually said that if India considers these organizations to be worthy of banning, that's something that the United Kingdom needs to be looking at. That's point one. And that maybe you should be looking at, when I say you, I mean the United Kingdom, should be looking at banning these groups as well, point one. Point two, how do you identify the security lapse that you said clearly took place?
Well, I mean, clearly, I don't have the information that says that our security forces knew about what was going on when that was going on. The question I then ask is, why didn't you know? Because it's this, as I say, this is coordinated. I think these demonstrations have been advertised in advance, and normally when these are advertised in advance, the police have a way of monitoring them to see if they pose any threat. Now, clearly here, this turned from a demonstration into violence. Under those circumstances, the police should have been aware of it. They should have been aware of the activity of these sort of individuals before, and known that they should have a police presence outside the High Commission to both monitor what was going on and prevent any damage to the Commission. The High Commissioner has been forthright in saying to us as members of Parliament last night, and indeed to our Home Secretary, that what happened is absolutely unacceptable. India is not going to tolerate it, nor should they. And we need to make sure that at these such meetings, we can speak freely and make sure that action is taken. Today in the House of Commons, the Home Secretary made clear that the Metropolitan Police's responsibility is indeed to safeguard not only the Indian High Commission, but also embassies from all countries across the world. If they fail to do so, then obviously they are open to not only criticism but action. The Met Police at the moment there's been a release of a report today, which is highly critical of the Metropolitan Police, and indeed the Home Secretary has said that we are going to require action for a root and branch review of what happens in our policing, and clearly this is one of the issues that has to be addressed.
That meeting with the Indian High Commissioner, with Vikram Doraiswamy, what did you say to him on behalf of the United Kingdom? You clearly said that he conveyed that India is not going to accept this. One of the long-standing demands has been for better, more effective security outside of our High Commission. What did you say to him?
Well, I made clear that from my perspective and from all the parliamentarians that were present yesterday in our meeting, our sympathy for what had happened, obviously our feelings of support for the security guards who've been injured, and the absolute unacceptability of what happened, and the bravery of the individuals within the High Commission who, when the flag was taken down, as you quite rightly said at the beginning of this particular programme, they put up an even bigger flag, making sure that they demonstrated the fact that India was not going to kowtow to these Khalistanis, nor should they. I think that's exactly the right sort of statement that I would expect to see from the officials within the Indian High Commission, and all power to their elbow, frankly, for doing this. I also made clear to the High Commissioner last night that we will be raising this directly with the Home Secretary and with other government officials to make sure that prompt action is taken. As you've seen today, there's been joyful demonstrations outside the High Commission, with people coming together, celebrating India, celebrating Holi as well, and demonstrating the friendship between the United Kingdom and the Commission. That demonstrates, frankly, the true identity of the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom. They are, of course, we celebrate the contribution they make to the United Kingdom, and we want that celebration to continue to grow and build on our friendship between our two great countries.
Finally, you're speaking about that friendship, but are you worried? Are you worried that this could have a longer-lasting hit on bilateral relations? Rishi Sunak is the Prime Minister. There was a great deal of celebration in India. He has an India connection. He has an Indian origin story, an Indian connection by marriage. And I think in India, there's a great deal of anger. On a previous program, we had a strategic affairs expert saying, well, we should even put the free trade agreement, the potential free trade agreement with the UK on hold till justice has been done, visible action has been taken. So there's a great deal of anger. Are you concerned that this could affect the larger relationship, A? And B, one of the comments that you made is that, most people in the Indian diaspora have no support for the kind of hooligans that we saw outside the High Commission. So just in the end, if you would take on both of these points.
Okay, well, let's be clear. We're just about to, if we haven't entered them, we're just about to enter the seventh round of talks between the United Kingdom and India on a free trade agreement. That would be an incredibly good agreement for both India and the United Kingdom. I suspect that behind a lot of these violent demonstrations is people that would literally wish to drive a wedge between ourselves and India. The answer to those people is you're not going to succeed. And the first thing that we must say to the Indian government is, do not allow the activities of this very small minority of idiots, frankly, who want to cause trouble to succeed, because that's what they wish to do, to drive a wedge between us, and they must not be allowed to succeed. So let us proceed in building up that friendship and building our trade, which will be a tremendous opportunity for India, for Indian exports to the United Kingdom, for people from India to come to the United Kingdom to study and to work, and equally opportunities for us to send people over to India. Now, the key here is, of course, that the justice system in the United Kingdom is independent of government, just as it is in India. So I would urge the police to arrest each of those individuals that they've identified as being responsible for the violent attacks on the High Commission, to charge them and then get them through the court process. And that's the proper process that we should follow. And I would ask them to do that as speedily as they possibly can. As you all know, the judicial system, both in India and in the UK, can often be quite slow because the police have got to go through the process of collecting the evidence, obviously the statements of the individuals involved, and making sure that they've got the file ready for our prosecutors then to take action against the individuals. But I think we've got to be clear. The individuals that committed this violence should have no place to hide. They rendered themselves liable for criminal prosecution, which should follow, and indeed we should take that from action. We should also say, and I think this is the other aspect, you quite rightly say, Rishi Sunak is our first Prime Minister of Indian origin, is a great boon, I think, to not only to India, but to the Indian diaspora in the United Kingdom. He understands India, he understands the diaspora, and he understands the hurt that is going on right now in India because of these senseless attacks from these individuals that must not be allowed to succeed. So what we need to do is to, as I say, isolate these organisations, review who the organisations are. The ones that are banned in India, we should be considering banning in the United Kingdom, and making it clear to people that if you belong to these organisations, then you will render yourself liable for prosecution for belonging to a banned organisation. Now, I will discuss this with our security minister in due course. Obviously, time permitting. This has only happened on Sunday, and we've got to be able to have the appropriate discussions and meetings. But clearly, now is the time to do this. I think that India's tolerance has been stretched far enough. My tolerance has been stretched far enough from the misbehaviour of these individuals. We should not allow it on the streets of London, and the people in power and in responsible positions need to take prompt action.
I think those last words are extremely important, that you'll be raising the issue of banning these groups with the security minister. India's tolerance has been stretched far enough, and that the United Kingdom Prime Minister understands the hurt and the anger in India. We thank you for being a friend of India, Bob Blackman, and thank you for your time this evening in London and at night in India. We let you go now. Thank you for talking to us and for always speaking up for Indian interests. Thank you.
Jai Hind.
Thank you, Jai Hind. Thank you.
It's great to see you here. Thank you for watching our work. If you haven't subscribed yet, don't forget to click the bell icon and subscribe to Mojo Story and support independent, robust journalism.